All right, welcome back to the channel. So it seems like Canelo Alvarez trainer Eddie Reynoso thinks that he has just such a crazy lock on #1 pound for pound that anybody that thinks Terence Crawford is the #1 pound for pound must be a Canelo Alvarez hater. Eddie Reynoso, please grow up. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So I ended my intro with something that didn't sound too nice, which was me saying, Eddie Reynoso, grow up. And what I mean by that is, look, two people can look at the same thing and come up with two different conclusions. Canelo Alvarez is an excellent, excellent fighter, without a doubt. I have been in debates, not debates, but I have been in conversations with people where I've called him a great fighter, and they disagreed with me heavily because I say that Canelo Alvarez throughout his career has done a lot of things that deserve that should hold him in high regard and that are very, very significant in the sport. However, he is not without rival. Okay, he's not. What we have in boxing a lot of times, definitely going on right now, is this tendency to try to proclaim somebody better than everybody else despite what you actually see them doing. Now, why would I say that about Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford? Is it because I think Terence Crawford is the #1 pound for pound guy in the world? No. He was my #1 pound for pound fighter, but he is not anymore. Same thing goes for Canelo Alvarez. I do not believe Canelo Alvarez is the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world. He used to be my #1 pound for pound fighter in the world, but he's not anymore. My #1 pound for pound fighter in the world is Errol Spence Jr., and that is because he has not done some of the things that Canelo Alvarez has done. See, you can ask questions about what has he done? What has he done? Let's look at some of the things they have not done that Canelo Alvarez has done and see if those things play into the pound for pound conversation. So, for example, Canelo Alvarez is not on my pound for pound because he got caught cheating. He cheated and he got caught. He got suspended for 6 months by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and but although the WBC cried up to, oh my God, woe is us, right? Even though I don't believe Canelo was even their champion. I do believe that their champion was Gennady Golovkin, but I could be wrong at the time. Regardless, sorry, had to take a short dog break because my dog Zeus is a guard dog. He's an Anatolian Shepherd, and they go nuts anytime anybody walks within a block of my house. So sorry about that. Now, so the things that Canelo Alvarez has not done, has done, he cheated and he got caught for performance-enhancing drugs, clenbuterol. And I'm sorry, pretty much anybody that can look at Canelo Alvarez would suspect that he's still doing it. But no proof. However, there was proof at the time that he did it. Consequently, he's not on my pound for pound list. He cheated. And how do you know how good he really is when he cheated? You don't. And you can't claim that he didn't cheat because he served a steroids suspension. Sorry, those things count. Second, he's a duck. It's just what he is. He's a duck. He ducked Jermall Charlo. Jermall Charlo was his WBC mandatory. The WBC gave him a franchise championship, invented it, so he winds up not having to fight Jermall Charlo. So he ducks so let's get this right. The things he has done. He has tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, and he has skipped out of fighting a fight that we all know is a serious fight for him. Is that it? No, that's not it, because he got stripped of a belt for ducking Sergey Deverenchenko, right? The guy that Jermall Charlo just fought back a few months ago on a doubleheader with his brother Jermell. That fight was a fight. That guy right there was a mandatory for Canelo Alvarez, and he didn't fight him. As a result, Canelo Alvarez was stripped of the 160-pound IBF championship. Those are things that he did. I'm sorry, I cannot give you pound for pound. Number one, if you're avoiding fights against tough fighters and you're testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs. Yes, he has other wins on his resume that are very, very good, right? But he also has that loss to Mayweather in a one-sided rout. Okay? The fight between Marcos Maidana and Floyd Mayweather Jr. was closer than Canelo Alvarez and Floyd Mayweather Jr. Personally, I think Canelo Alvarez has a problem with people who move it with feet. And he lost to Erislandy Lara, in my opinion. So, again, even though he is a great fighter, and I truly do believe he is an excellent, excellent fighter in the ring. No, I do not have him as my number one pound for pound. Can you have him? Yes, if you decide that it's not important that the person not test positive for performance-enhancing drugs and you don't mind that he ducked a few guys. If you don't mind, then hey, by all means, put him on the top of your list. I'm not going to do it. Now, Terence Crawford, is he my number one pound for pound? No, he is not. Why? But he is ahead of Canelo Alvarez. Why? Because Canelo's not on my list at all because he's a drug cheat. And Terence Crawford has not tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. He's actually unified a division, something Canelo Alvarez refused to do when he ducked Sergey Deverenchenko and Demetrius Andrade. Because he had all three belts. He had the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF at 160. All he had to do was fight Demetrius Andrade for the WBO, and he had it. But he didn't fight Demetrius Andrade. Sorry, that's another guy he didn't fight. Can't do it. Now, do I have Terence Crawford as my number one? No. But do I believe that it is what did he call it? Haterism? Basically just said, you're just pro Terence Crawford. What do you mean I'm just pro Terence Crawford? Like, I'm just going to look at Terence and be like, ooh, Terence is better than Canelo just because I want him to be. No, man, you tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. And on top of that, there's a whole lot of people that think Terence Crawford is the number one pound-for-pound fighter over Canelo Alvarez. Because prior to this Rocky Fielding fight and prior to the Vasily Lomachenko fight, loss to Teofimo Lopez, there were a whole lot of people that didn't think Canelo Alvarez was number one pound for pound. And nobody was saying, and there were people arguing about, was it Crawford or was it Lomachenko? Look, man, there's nothing immature about somebody or a hater about them if they do not love Canelo. I'm sorry. Especially since he's not fighting anybody. Now, that is why I have Errol Spence Jr. as my pound for pound number one guy. And that is because I score the four different areas of scoring criteria: ring generalship, defense, effective aggressiveness, and whatever I'm missing, the four. Defense, ring generalship, clean and effective punching, effective aggressiveness. Those are the four things that I judge. And then I judge it based on the quality of the opposition that I've seen you in there with. And I've not seen Canelo in there with anybody that I thought posed any problem. And I honestly, I haven't seen him with anybody that I thought was really. Gennady Golovkin, I think the first fight is fair to say, okay, yeah, that was really one. The rest of them, no, you can get out of here, man. The Kovalev is just whatever. Same thing goes with Rocky Fieldhand and Callum Smith. Just get out of here, man. Those are not big fight. Those are not world. They are world-class fighters, but they are not elite world-class fighters. And you don't get a pass just because, for whatever reason you want to give Canelo a pass on that, man. He's got to fight people, just like Terence Crawford's got to fight people. I have Errol Spence Jr. up there because he got out of a car accident, jumped out and fought a guy that's a Hall of Fame candidate. He's not actually in the Hall of Fame yet, Dougie. Right? Anyway, it is what it is. And with that, I'm out. Peace.